Her life was like a flash of light, bright but short. Isabella enjoyed life, loved, and dreamed as if she knew that time was limited. Fate proved cruel by ending the life story of this lovable young woman at its most beautiful moment, leaving behind only a few questions. Why? For what reason? Isabella Joy Thallas was born on June 8, 1999, in Colorado. Her father, Joshua Thallas, and her mother, Ana Hernandez Thallas, divorced when Bella and her younger sisters Lucia were still very small. It turned out that Joshua was not ready for fatherhood at all. Ana began raising her daughters alone while working and taking care of the household at the same time. It took 10 years before Joshua finally felt ready for family responsibilities. Despite the wounds of the past, Ana gave him a second chance. They got back together. However, this relationship lasted only 5 years and finally ended in a permanent separation. Later, Ana began a new life with another man, with whom she had a son, Jacob Hernandez. For Isabella and Lucia, the constant arguments and reconciliations between their parents became a familiar part of life. Nevertheless, the young women kept a warm relationship with both their mother and their father. Bella was very kind-hearted and trusting. She studied accounting at Metropolitan State University of Denver, but at night she drew dress designs in her notebooks. She dreamed of becoming a fashion designer. Her side job as a model for local brands became her secret escape into the world of beauty, while her younger sister Lucia consciously chose the practical path of criminal justice. Because of the difficult relationship between their mother and father, both sisters unconsciously avoided serious relationships. At 20 years old, Bella was convinced that love was only a beautiful myth. But on the very day when she met a young man named Darian Simon at another photo shoot, her opinion changed. Darian was 5 years older than Bella. He worked as a photographer, owned a studio, and was also a co-creator of the clothing brand Be a Good Person. Darian and Bella had a lot in common: a love of fashion, beauty, and photography. He, too, had grown up in an incomplete family and did not believe in love. They immediately grew close and began dating, but at first they kept their relationship secret. Only Lucia knew that Bella was in love, and when their mother found out, she immediately began to worry about her eldest daughter. She did not want Bella to repeat her mistakes. She did not want Bella to marry too early and regret it later. The mother watched her daughter closely, while Darian and Isabella's feelings became stronger and stronger. Soon they stopped hiding their relationship. In April of 2020, a serious conflict broke out between Ana and Bella. In an emotional reaction, the young woman packed her things and moved into Darian's new apartment. This rushed step later became a source of endless guilt for her mother. Ana was convinced that the tragedy could have been avoided if Bella had stayed at home. Over time, the relationship between mother and daughter improved. They reconciled. Because of that, the family was able to celebrate 2 important events together: Bella's 21st birthday and Lucia's 19th birthday. Their birthdays were only a few days apart. On June 7, 2020, a joyful celebration took place on the rooftop of a respected restaurant. The mother had organized everything down to the smallest detail to make that day special. The sisters glowed with happiness as they posed for family photos. Those pictures, which captured their carefree smiles, would later become priceless memories. The cake Ana had ordered for the celebration was so beautiful that no one dared to cut it into pieces. Bella took the cake home and sent her mother a photo the next morning, showing herself eating a piece of cake for breakfast. Only 2 days later, a terrible tragedy happened. June 10th, 2020 was an ordinary day. Darian and Bella woke up late. In the afternoon, the young woman planned to meet her mother so she could finally receive her long-awaited birthday gift. Darian planned to invite a friend over that evening so they could play video games together. The young man noticed that his beloved dog, a pit bull mix, was not feeling well. The dog seemed sluggish and sad. At 11:30 in the morning, Darian and Bella went outside with the dog. Bella held the leash, while Darian carried the dog waste bags. The couple headed toward a nearby building in downtown Denver, hoping that the fresh air would help the animal feel better and become lively again. When they reached a bench, Darian sat down. Bella remained standing with the dog. They spoke calmly to each other, while also trying to encourage the dog to relieve itself in the bushes. Suddenly, an aggressive shout came from a dark window of the neighboring building. "Hey, are you going to train your dog here or yell at it?" Darian tensed up. He looked toward the dark window, but he could not see the stranger's face. Troubling thoughts rushed through his mind. Who is this man? Why is he so hostile? Darian tried to remain calm and answered, "My dog is well trained. He has been with me for 4 years." He stood up from the bench, walked over to Bella, and took the leash so they could go somewhere else. At that moment, his eyes caught movement in the window, and he saw the barrel of a rifle pointed directly at them. "Are you aiming at me?" Darian managed to ask. Then the shooting began. That morning, 19-year-old Lucia took her younger brother to a friend's house and then drove to a cafe to order lunch. While she was waiting for her order, one of Bella's friends called and asked, "Hello, how are you? When was the last time you spoke to your sister? Do you know where Bella is? Maybe you should call her." Lucia did not understand what was happening, but the call worried her. The young woman called her sister, but Bella did not answer the phone. Lucia found that suspicious and located her sister through a special app. She learned that Bella's phone was near Darian's home. Lucia calmed down. She assumed her sister was at home and that everything was fine. Only a few minutes later, however, Lucia received a message from a friend asking her to contact Darian's family. The message contained a link to a report about a shooting. The tragedy had happened near Darian's home. The message sounded extremely alarming. Lucia immediately called her mother. It turned out that Anna was in a nearby store, not far from the cafe where Lucia was waiting for her lunch. Mother and daughter immediately agreed to meet and go to the hospital together. From the doctors, they learned that one person had died and another had been seriously injured. Anna began asking the nurses about her daughter, Isabella Thallas, but no one recognized that name. When she asked about Darian Simon, she was told that he was in the surgical department. Anna ran desperately through the hospital. No one could give her a clear explanation of what had happened or tell her where Bella was. The mother grabbed her phone and began feverishly searching the internet for information. Suddenly, her eyes fell on a report from the crime scene. In drone footage, a lifeless body could be seen covered with a sheet. Only one foot was visible, but that was enough. The mother immediately recognized Bella by her shoes and by the pedicure they had done together before her birthday. Anna understood. Her Isabella had died in the shooting. At that moment, her world collapsed. A wave of grief overtook Anna. How? Why her Bella? So cheerful, so kind-hearted. A young woman who wished harm on no one. How could something like this happen? She had not deserved such cruelty. Lucia called her father, told him about the tragedy, and then drove to the place where her sister had been killed so she could see with her own eyes what had happened there. Police officers and crime scene technicians were still working at the scene. They did not speak with Lucia. The young woman felt completely helpless and useless, but she wanted to understand what had happened to Bella. Lucia remembered everything she had learned in college about forensic science and began looking more closely at the crime scene. She counted 56 yellow markers indicating pieces of evidence. Then she noticed that someone was holding a dog and pulling it by the leash. Lucia walked toward the dog, and the man holding him told her that the dog had been found on a nearby street. Later, investigators were able to reconstruct the course of events. After aggressive assaults were directed at the couple with the dog, the stranger withdrew into another room, took an assault rifle belonging to his friend, and returned to the window. In the next moment, shots rang out, 24 rounds, one after another, with such speed that no one had time to understand what was happening. The first victim was Bella. She had not said a word to the shooter, but that did not stop him. Darian saw a bullet hit Bella in the back, and she fell to the ground. When he tried to run, he too was struck by a burst of gunfire. The shooter disappeared as suddenly as he had appeared. Darian was bleeding heavily and tried to roll away from the cursed window. 2 gunshot wounds. Hellish pain. He kept losing consciousness. He vaguely remembered the screams of people who had rushed over because of the noise. Someone ripped off his own belt and tied it around the young man's hip to stop the bleeding from the injured artery. That simple but decisive actions and saved his life. "Where is Bella? What happened to her?" Darian gasped, but he received no answer. The ambulance took him to the hospital in critical condition. Doctors fought for Darian's life, and fortunately, they were able to save him. The killer was quickly found. He was 36-year-old Michael Close. After the shooting, he tried to hide in the mountains with his SUV and weapons, but witnesses to the tragedy helped identify him, and the perpetrator was arrested. Michael was arrested and charged with the murder of Isabella and the attempted murder of Darian. However, he pleaded not guilty, even though numerous weapons were found in his vehicle, including the very rifle used in the shooting. Michael was also charged in connection with illegal weapons and a prohibited high-capacity magazine. Before this incident, the man had no criminal record and no problems with the law, which made what happened even more shocking. As it turned out, there had been a serious conflict between Michael and his girlfriend the day before the tragedy. According to her, Michael had long suffered from depression and mental disorders and had used illegal substances, which further worsened his condition. After the shooting, Michael contacted his girlfriend and confessed what he had done. He told her that he had shot 2 people, and there was remorse in his voice. His girlfriend begged him to turn himself in to the authorities, but he refused because he was in a state of extreme emotional instability. Worried about Michael's behavior, his girlfriend immediately called the police and told them where he was, hoping to prevent another tragedy. Michael's friend, a police officer named Daniel Politica, told investigators that he had received a message from him after the shooting. In it, Michael complained that he had become angry at a couple with a dog and had begun shooting with an AK-47 style rifle that he had taken from Daniel Politica's room. Darian's and Bella's families filed a civil lawsuit against Daniel Politica, accusing him of negligence. Daniel Politica later left the Denver Police Department. Later, a representative of the police department reviewed the case and concluded that Politica had not committed any obvious policy violation. According to that conclusion, he could not have known that Michael would enter his room that day and take the weapon. The civil lawsuit filed against him was settled by his insurance company, which paid the affected families $500,000 with no admission of responsibility. Joshua Thallas, the father of the late Isabella, felt a fierce sense of injustice. He was especially outraged by the behavior of Daniel Politica, Michael's friend, who showed no real remorse over the fact that he had enabled the killer to access a weapon so easily. What outraged Joshua most, however, was something else. The fact that the weapon's owner was not held criminally responsible for improper storage of the firearm. In his painful reflections, Joshua kept returning to the possible racial background of the crime. His daughter Bella and her boyfriend Darian were mixed race. Had Michael really shot at the couple only because of the dog, or was there another motive? The family received no answers to these questions, neither from the perpetrator nor from investigators. Darian underwent a series of complicated surgeries to restore movement in his injured leg. But the physical injuries were nothing compared to the emotional wounds. Post-traumatic stress disorder and the tormenting guilt he felt toward the late Bella and her family gave him no peace for a long time. In his mind, he kept returning to one question: what could have provoked Michael? He found no answer. Some of Bella's friends openly voiced their doubts. Could Darian not have protected her? She fell, and he turned around and ran away. These words and accusations were especially painful for Darian. During sessions with a psychologist, he analyzed every second of that terrible day, June 10th, in detail. The specialist helped him understand that in that moment, he had not been physically able to help Bella, and that his instinct for self-preservation was a natural reaction of his body. Michael Close stubbornly denied his guilt. His lawyer built the defense around the claim of insanity. The defense insisted that the roots of the tragedy lay in the defendant's traumatic childhood, which had been worsened by a series of failures, job losses, breakups, and stress connected to the pandemic. Surveillance camera footage served as undeniable evidence. It clearly showed Michael calmly opening the blinds and beginning to shoot, while the unsuspecting Darian and Bella were merely trying to lead the dog away and avoid conflict. September of 2022 became a turning point in this case. After lengthy proceedings, the jury unanimously found Michael Close guilty of brutally murdering Isabella and attempting to murder Darian. On November 4th of that same year, the court handed down its final sentence. He received life in prison without the possibility of parole for the murder of Bella, as well as an additional 48 years in prison for the attempted murder of Darian, and more than $37,000 in restitution. During the sentencing, Michael sat with his head lowered and cried quietly. His tears, however, did not soften the severity of the punishment for his crimes. Isabella Thallas, was buried in an elegant Dolce & Gabbana dress, the very dress her mother had not been able to give her on her tragic birthday. The tragedy fundamentally changed Lucia's life. She gave up her dream of becoming a police officer and later turned toward a path of helping victims and honoring Bella's memory, determined to become someone who truly understands the pain of victims and their families. Bella's mother, Ana Hernandez Thallas, still feels compassion for Michael Close despite everything. Her faith does not allow her to see him only as a monster, but as a human being broken by the circumstances of his life. Near the place where the young woman died, a memorial garden called Bella Joy Gardens was created, with a large image of Bella on the wall. In the garden, there is also a special area for walking pets. In the state of Colorado, the Isabella Joy Thallas Act was passed, tightening the rules for reporting lost or stolen firearms. From then on, gun owners are required to report the loss or theft of a firearm to the police within 5 days. This stricter law is intended to help prevent similar tragedies in the future. Thank you for watching, and please take care of yourselves.